So talking about soap, I'm sure everybody has heard about soap, right? We all know what is soap. But let's try to understand what is chemically this soap made up of. How is soap made from, or what is the soap made from? Anybody has any idea that what is soap prepared from? Anybody has any idea what soap? Yes, fat. What fat? Glycerine. Okay, animal fat. It's a base. Very good. Silica. Okay. So let me give you a small insight of what exactly soap is all about. Now, when oil or fat is boiled with aqueous solution of sodium or potassium hydroxide, then sodium or potassium salt of carboxylic acids are obtained. Now, if I tell this, it becomes a little difficult for all of us to understand what do I mean by that. We all know what is oil and fats, right? Now this vegetable oil or whatever animal fat we are using, this oil which has the formula of the acid, they have the formula of the acid which is a acetic acid. So the formula becomes CH3COOH. Every one of us has heard about this acetic acid, right? CH3CO. This reaction is not going to be asked in your exam. This reaction is not going to be asked in your exam. It's only for your understanding. Basically, you know what, students? Soap is not this formula CH3COOH. It's the main, the COOH, which I need to explain it to you. If I attach it with CH3, it becomes vinegar, which is my acetic acid. But this is a functional group of carbon atoms, which is called as carboxylic acid. As you all can see the name here, carboxylic acid. It's a functional group in carbon compound, which is called as dash COOH, means carboxylic acid, where here the number of carbon atoms attached can keep on changing. In the structure of soap, we around have 17 to 14 carbon atoms. So they keep on changing. Important is this functional group, which is called as COOH. So which is present in this oil. This oil I am boiling with aqueous solution. Aqueous means put in water. Aqueous solution of sodium or potassium hydroxide. What's the formula of sodium or potassium hydroxide? What's the formula of sodium or potassium hydroxide? If I'm writing sodium hydroxide, it is going to be NaOH. This is sodium hydroxide, or if in place of Na I write K, it will become potassium hydroxide. Got my point? So when oils or fats which are containing this carboxylic acid, which is my COOH, they're boiled with this sodium hydroxide. I'm taking only the example of sodium hydroxide. If I am going to boil them together, what happens is here, this OH of NaOH and this H of the acid combine together. What do you think will be formed when these two things combine together, H and OH? Very good. We get the product which is called as H2O. So one product which I'm going to get in this reaction is H2O. And when this place of H is left vacant, matlab ye jagah khali ho gaya because H has come out from the reaction, and this Na is also standing alone. So this Na goes and takes the place of H. Na goes and takes the place of H, and I get the formula as COONA. COONA, where here any carbon can come and attach ahead of this place. Important is the change which is taking place here. CH3COONA. So this is called as sodium salt of carboxylic acid. यहाँ पे लिखा है देखो. Sodium salt or potassium salts of carboxylic acid, which is my fatty acid. So this becomes my main functional group of fatty acid, which are called as soap. Is it clear, everyone? COOH is the functional group to which the Na had attached. So it has become CH3COONA, which is called as sodium salt of carboxylic acid. This reaction I've given you to have an insight to understand what exactly is the definition. So we say when oils or animal fat is boiled with aqueous solution of sodium or potassium hydroxide, then sodium or potassium salt of carboxylic acids or fatty acids are formed. Yes, H was removed, so I placed Na. Now your question might be, कि मैम COO क्यों लिखा है? Why haven't you written it as CO2 together? Now students, when I write CO2, what comes in your mind? When I write CO2, what comes in our mind is carbon dioxide, isn't it? But this is not carbon dioxide. No, this is the functional group of carbon. So in carbon chapter specifically, all the functional groups have given a separate sign where you don't write them together. You will write COOH. So that looking at the formula, we understand this is about the carbon structure. Got my point, everyone? Yes, it's a functional group. You don't have to write this reaction. It is not there in the tech notebook also, not there in the textbook. So you just have to understand the definition. To understand the definition, I've given you this formula because usually what interests me is also teaching about soap because we use soap every day. We need to know what exactly it is made up of. If you're aware, you know, not now, I don't know how many households do that, but usually it was a tradition that many people had the habit of making soaps at home only in the tub, in a plastic tub. They used to get a kit from the market, which is made for, usually asked to the seller that I want the contents of the soap. He gives you the certain contents and asks you to mix it at home and set it overnight. You get a nice cake of soap in the home. Have you all seen that? Yeah, a lot of students are saying yes, it's available in the market. It's an interesting thing to understand and try also. So let's see the definition once again. Aqueous means mixed with water. Aqueous means mixed with water. So when oil or animal fats is boiled with aqueous solution of sodium or potassium hydroxide, sodium or potassium salts of carboxylic acids, or which are called as fatty acids, are obtained. These salts are called as soap. So basically the formula which I had got as the product, which was COONA, that is the main functional group of my soap. So these salts are called as soap. So when this soap is mixed with hard water, calcium and magnesium salts of fatty acids are formed. As we have studied in the content of washing soda, where we've studied that soap does not allow lather to be formed. The reason is soap does not allow lather to be formed because when it is mixed with hard water, the hard water contains chlorides and sulfates of calcium and magnesium. Do you remember? Hard water contains chlorides and sulfates of calcium and magnesium. So because of which in hard water, calcium and magnesium salts of fatty acids are formed. They being insoluble, they form the precipitate, and that is why lather is not formed in the reaction. I hope these all things are helping you to connect with the topic which we were discussing earlier. Is it clear, everyone? So I want you all to only write the definition of soap in the notebook. Give the heading, write the heading as soap, and only write the definition which is on the first line. When oils or animal fats, you have to repeat again and again to get the definitions registered in your mind. Come on, repeat once again with me, everyone, louder. When oils or animal fats is boiled with aqueous solution of sodium or potassium hydroxide, sodium or potassium salts of carboxylic acids, we spell it as carboxylic acids, which are also called as fatty acids, are formed. These salts are called as soap. Are you all writing? Yes, so if you're finished writing, we'll move ahead. Yeah, I'll wait a minute. Don't copy the entire thing, only the definition, please. Finished? Any type of animal fat can be used here. Usually it's a vegetable oil which is used, but definitely we do have animal fats. Okay. So moving ahead, let's try to understand the difference between a bathing soap and a washing soap. Let's try to understand the difference between a bathing soap and a washing soap. So we all know that oils and fats is the main content of making a soap, irrespective of it's a bathing soap or it's a washing soap. So what will be the actual difference? In bathing soap, we will use high quality of fats and oils as the raw material because definitely it's used for bathing purpose. So under washing soap, we are going to write low grade fats and oils are used as the raw material. Similarly, you might have observed in bathing soap, the smell is very nice as compared to that of washing soap. See, so much of advertisement we see. Soap का main content तो ये basic item ही है. फिर उसके अंदर हल्दी डालो, नीम डालो, मोगरा डालो, different flowers डालो, सब कुछ डालो. This is how marketing happens. But bottom line is bathing soap is bathing soap, washing soap is washing soap. These days we've come up with different types of advertisements. People saying that check a pH paper to check the pH of the soap which we are using. Definitely. Now people have become more cautious of the things what they use on their body, and everybody has become so intelligent with thanks to Google that we know everything in and around us. Initially, that is not what used to happen before Google. Before Google, people only had the access to go to the market, check, try, and use the product. Now we first check what is the quality of the product. We make sure that everything is good. So everyone has maintained their standards very high. So for bathing soap, we use good quality perfumes, and for washing soap, it's not that bad quality, but low quality perfumes can be used. As washing purposes, we don't have to have a fragrant body, but definitely for washing clothes, these detergents have these enzyme action, some oxygen action, and so many things they are adding to make the quality easier, good. Under bathing soap and washing soap, student, first point is given to you. Second point, we have to write it down. So you can write it in your notebooks or textbook as well. That the second point is about good quality perfumes and low quality perfumes. Mention this. Yeah, this can come in the exam as a distinguish between. So this is expected from the students to complete it in your textbook. Please write it down, or you can write it in your notebook if you're not having the textbook with you. Finished writing, everyone? Yes, I am. Correct. So under the topic of soap, the definition can be asked. They might ask you this distinguish. They might also ask you why soap does not allow lather to be formed. So if they ask us why soap does not allow lather to be formed, the answer would be when soap is mixed with hard water, calcium and magnesium salts or fatty acids are formed, which are insoluble as they form a precipitate, and that is why lather is not formed. So these three different questions can be asked from the content of soap. Moving ahead, let us try to understand the new term which we are going to study for a long time, which is called as radioactive substances. I'm pretty sure each of my student has heard about this term called as radioactive substances, or what is radioactivity. We have gone through these terms, and a lot of questions related to radioactivity which comes up in our mind, because this is such a thing where continuous research is still happening. We have a so much vast background to understand about radioactivity. So let's try to understand few things what we see from chemistry point of view also. So radioactive substances. First of all, elements with high atomic number. We know about atomic number. Some elements with high atomic number such as uranium, thorium and radium. They have the property of spontaneously emitting, invisible, highly penetrating, high energy radiations. Every term in this definition is very important. Elements with high atomic number such as uranium, thorium, radium. What properties do they have? They spontaneously emit out. What they emit out? Invisible and high penetrating. Highly penetrating, I hope you understand, which can seep in through one surface and move on to the other surface. Highly penetrating and high energy radiations. This property is termed as radioactivity. Spontaneously emitting means a radioactive substance gives out radiations. Radiations means waves, which waves comes out of it. Atomic number means number of protons or number of electrons. Atomic number means number of protons or number of electrons. So once again, everyone repeat after me quickly. Elements with high atomic number such as uranium, thorium, radium. It's not that only uranium, thorium and radium are the examples. We have many more examples of radioactive substances. These are few which we've listed down in the definition. Have the property of spontaneously emitting, come on louder, spontaneously emitting invisible, highly penetrating and high energy radiation. This property is called as radioactivity. I want everyone to write down the definition of radioactivity. Yes, it's a part of Chernobyl. Try to read the definition twice and thrice. See, if you're doing it in the class itself, I'm giving you time. We won't have to waste much time. Don't have to sit separately studying the chapter. We'll do it in the class itself. Usually when I take this class in the classroom, I make sure that we do the definition, revise, and every student is made to answer. In this way, this chapter, which is little not so interesting in by hearting, it becomes easy when we do it in the class. Lesson 5. Which one? Okay, Sai, I'll speak to sir and let you know. Or else you can directly contact sir and tell him that you want this chapter's test. As we have already prepared question papers, he'll pass it on to you. Highly penetrating means easily moving on from one surface to another. It passes through one surface to another. See, it's like you've seen X-rays. No, we've gone for doing X-rays some of the other time. So we don't see the rays because they're invisible and they're spontaneous. X-ray doesn't take 1 hour or 2 hours. It hardly takes few seconds for us to get an X-ray done. So that rays are penetrating our body, then it is able to take the image of our body. No, so that is why they are invisible, spontaneously emitting, highly penetrating, and a lot of energy. Are we done with writing the definition of radioactivity? All right. So this is called as radioactivity, and definitely the okay, you're writing, right. I'll wait for a few minutes. Yes, we'll come to that. Right. So the elements which are having these properties, these radioactive properties, are called as radioactive substance. And the nucleus of the radioactive substance is always unstable. That is the reason why from this unstable nucleus, radiations are constantly given out. So radioactive substances are relevant to our day-to-day life also. So, but before going further, let's understand what are these radioactive substances. 3 types of radiations are given out from these radioactive substances, and these are alpha rays, beta rays, and gamma rays. From these radioactive substances, which are having this unstable nucleus, and from the unstable nucleus, we have 3 types of radiations coming out, which are alpha rays, beta rays, and gamma rays. Let's try to understand the alpha, beta, and gamma radiations here. I don't know, Razeen, still we have a lot of process going on to this, whether they are actually able to do that or not. So an introduction to scientists, we're going to first learn about a scientist who carried out a very interesting experiment, which he wasn't aware of, which he was actually not looking for as the product. He was a French scientist. His name was Henri Becquerel. Henri Becquerel was studying pitch blende. Now, pitch blende is a compound which is made of uranium. So it is having uranium as one of the elements. And he accidentally kept this uranium on some unused photographic plates in a cardboard box in a drawer. I hope you understand what are photographic plates. These are kind of plates which you see on the X-ray sheets. You see those sheets on the X-rays are given to us. It's that kind of a material which is a photographic plate, and he had kept some unused photographic plates in a cardboard box in a drawer, and he kept a key lying on the box. And then he happened to leave the uranium isotope on that. The uranium compound was kept on that only. After a few days, when he washed the plates, he found out the plates were cloudy and showed the shape of the key. Now, when I say this statement, I'm pretty sure everybody can imagine the X-ray sheet which I'm talking about. And the X-ray sheet, what do we see? We see only such kind of cloudy, and the shape is still visible to us. It's not a clear thing, right? And this is what accidentally happened with him. The key had shown the shape of the key, and as this incident occurred in the dark, because this incident occurred in the dark, Becquerel said that the uranium compounds might be having something inside it, some kind of radiations which are penetrating the substances. He wasn't actually wanting to conduct this experiment. He was studying about radioactivity, but accidentally he found out about X-rays. So Becquerel inferred that uranium compounds might be having something from inside. Some rays are coming out, and these rays have been given the name as X-rays. It is sometimes also called as Becquerel rays. These rays were sometimes also called as Becquerel rays. Basically, Becquerel was a scientist who was the reason behind finding out about X-rays who are penetrating these substances. After a few days, Madame Curie, if you might have heard about, it's a famous name in radiophysics. Madame Curie discovered similar properties under the compounds of thorium as well. Just like uranium, thorium is also one such compound which helps us emitting out these radiations. So this was about Henri Becquerel, who helped us find out about the X-rays with the help of the compound of uranium while he was studying about pitch blende. Yes, polonium. Yes, correct, Arman. Wasn't it interesting to know that how X-rays were discovered? Because we would never put an effort to understand from where these X-rays came from, isn't it? Now, when you know that a lot of questions might be popping up in your mind, acha, aisa hai kya? Iske wajah se hua, it's radiations. So it's always, when you try to have some interest, you will enjoy studying the subject, isn't it? So apart from this, we are also going to study about one more scientist whom we all have heard about, Ernest Rutherford. Yes, he discovered X-rays. Ernest Rutherford के बारे में हम सबने सुना है. Ernest Rutherford is a scientist from New Zealand. He did a lot of research under radioactivity. We also studied about the Goldfield experiment, which was given by Rutherford to understand what exactly is present inside the atom. He showed a lot of things. He gave a lot of things under physics. We can't cover everything. So we tried to cover a few things, which is under nature of radioactive radiations. Now, this is what the experiment we are going to learn about. First, let us try to understand what is the setup of the experiment here. Here I have a radioactive substance. A radioactive substance which is active. It's radioactive, it is active by emitting out radiations. Then I have to keep a lead block. The reason for keeping the lead block, because I want all my radiations to go in only one direction. Then I have a slit. The slit is nothing but a cardboard made of hole, or a wooden plank which is made of a hole. Again, making sure that all the radiations are passed in from the hole. Then I have two electrically charged plates. Electrically charged plates means one electrical charge, one is connected to the positive end, one is connected to the negative end. And we are allowing the radiations to fall on a photographic plate, which is coated with zinc sulfide. We are allowing the radiations to pass on a photographic plate, which is coated with zinc sulfide. Again, I'm repeating the setup. Let the setup be in your mind, because this experiment is usually asked to draw in the exam also. We have a radioactive substance which is kept under a lead block. We have a slit. Then we have two electrically charged plates, positive and negative. We have a photographic plate which is coated with zinc sulfide. And after the radioactive substance was passing on the radiations, because of the electrically charged plate, as you can very well see in the diagram, that how certain radiations are deflecting towards the positive side, certain are deflecting towards the negative side, and certain are not deflecting at all. Let us try to understand this. In 1889, Rutherford discovered that radiations emitted out by radium, the radioactive substance which he took was radium, were of two types. Rutherford came to know only about two types of radiations, which is alpha and beta. I hope you all know how to write alpha and beta. I'll just show you once. See, this is how we write alpha radiations. This is the symbol of alpha, and beta is usually written like this. These are the beta radiations with a long line here, and this is how we write a gamma radiation. Okay? Yes, it's given in the diagram also. Why am I showing? I can see that. So it's alpha, beta, and gamma radiations. So as you can see the diagram. Thank you, Aishwarya. Rutherford was able to discover about only these radiations of alpha and beta. Later on, Willard, the name of the scientist is Willard, or you can also spell it as Willard, whatever you like, but the spelling should be correct. Willard discovered the third type of radiation, which is named as the gamma radiations. So now, when these radiations are allowed to pass through the oppositely charged plates, see here we are allowing them to pass through the oppositely charged plates. Now this method, as we said, is introduced by Rutherford and Willard. They studied the radiation emitted by the radioactive substance. The rays, when allowed to pass through the electrical field and a photographic plate, was held in their path. And it was found that the radiations were divided into three types. The radiations were divided into three types. The rays which deviated, one type of radiation we saw that it slightly moved towards a negatively charged plate, while the second deviated substantially towards a positive charge. If you observe the diagram carefully, student, the radiation which is deviating towards a negative charge, that is the down one. The negative charge जो है वो थोड़ा ही deviate हुआ है. थोड़ा ही deviate मतलब उसने अपना path change कर दिया है. But जो positive की side deviate हुआ है, the one which is trying to move to the positive charge, you can say it substantially move towards the positive charge. मतलब increase ज़्यादा है उसका deviation का. And the third type of radiation did not deviate at all in the electrical field. So the rays which deviated slightly, rays which deviated slightly towards the negative charge will called as the alpha rays. What are they called as? Alpha rays. And the one which deviated towards the positive charge are called as the beta rays. And the ones which did not deviate at all are called as the gamma rays. Everybody understood? We are talking about Willard. Rutherford and Willard did this experiment together. So Rutherford was the one who was able to tell us about alpha and beta, and Willard was the one who was able to tell us about the third type of radiation, which is the gamma radiation. Is this experiment clear to everyone about alpha, beta, and gamma? Did you all understand? All right. What is more important here to remember is the characteristics of the alpha, beta, and gamma radiation, which is given to us in our textbook. Now, this is very important. First of all, as we all know that alpha rays had deviated towards the negative charge. अगर alpha rays ने deviate किया negative charge के लिए, तो उसका charge क्या होगा? Positive. As you can see, He2 plus particles. You already learned the whole thing. Very good. So alpha rays are positively charged. Beta rays, the current of beta rays are negative charge, which is the charge of an electron. And gamma rays are electromagnetic radiations. See, alpha is positive, beta is negative, gamma is electromagnetic radiation. When I say alpha is positive means what? They are doubly charged helium ions. They are called as doubly charged helium ions, मतलब He2 plus. And beta rays are negative, मतलब उसका E negative. Or electromagnetic radiation, basically they are form of energy. I think nobody is now talking on the chat box because yes, He2 plus means 2 double charged helium ions. 2 charged positive helium ions, that is the nature of alpha rays. Or nature of beta rays is because it deviated towards the positively charged field, no opposites will attract. These are radiations. They are energy waves. These are rays. So electromagnetic radiations basically are a form of energy that is produced by the movement of electrically charged particles. कोई charged particle होता है ना, electrically charged particle. Electrically charged particle means what? We are passing electric current through it. So when that's a form of energy which is produced by their movement, that will be called as electromagnetic radiations, which is traveling through matter. And the mass has already been calculated and given to us. See, we just have to learn. Imagine how much brains would have been required to get these content done. Imagine the brain levels of these scientists who were able to give us these finer details about the radiations, which are helping us now so much in so many fields today in our day-to-day life. We are coming across radiations. Forget everything. Today also we are sitting in front of radiations. The laptop, the mobile phones, the technology, everything is about radiation. And we were able to know only because we knew these finer details. So mass is given to us, which you'll have to remember. Mass of alpha rays is 4.0028 daltons. U is the unit which stands for daltons. And mass of beta is 0.000548 daltons. And gamma rays have no mass. As I said, alpha rays are doubly charged, +2. Beta is -1. And gamma rays is electrically neutral. Now talking about velocity. Electromagnetic radiation, I said they're that kind of energy which are produced by the movement of electrically charged particles. When there is electrically charged particles, because of whose movement, if there is a form of energy being created that passes through matter, it will be called as electromagnetic radiations. See, we are not able to see all this. Radiations are not visible to us, they're invisible. So velocity is 1/5 to 1/20th times the velocity of light. Beta rays has 1/5 to 9/10 times the velocity of light, and gamma rays are same as that of the velocity of light. And deviation in the electric field you will know when you see the diagram. Alpha rays are attracted towards the negatively charged plate, beta rays are attracted towards the positively charged plate, and gamma rays are not attracted at all. Now the penetrating power, which is very important here. Alpha rays can only penetrate an aluminium sheet of thickness less than 0.02 mm. Beta rays can penetrate an aluminium thickness of 2 mm, which is 100 times more the capacity of the alpha rays. But gamma radiations can penetrate about 15 centimeter screen thick, which is 10,000 times more than the penetration of alpha particles. Then we have ionization power, which is the different ranges given to us. Alpha rays is very high, beta rays is low, gamma rays is very low. And power to produce fluorescence. Have you heard about this term called as fluorescence? Have you heard about this term called as fluorescence? What is the meaning of fluorescence? Glow in the dark. Very good. It's a power to glow in the dark is very high of alpha rays, very low of beta rays, and low of gamma rays. And ionization power. Ionization power means is the ability or the energy required to remove an electron from the orbital of an atom. किसी atom की orbit में से जो electron को remove करने का power है, that energy is called as ionization power. Got it about ionization power? Done, everyone? Yes. Yes, these radiations are a boon and a bane both for us. ये जितना हमको harmful है उतना ही हमारे लिए नुकसान भी है, जो हम पढ़ेंगे in the next topic, that is the uses and hazards of the radioactive radiations. अगर हम उसको detail में नहीं read करें तो भी we have an idea how they are useful to us. As I said, the technology which is coming to us, medicine, agriculture, industries, everywhere we are studying these radiations. Everywhere. But जो हमारा harmful effects है, because we are exposed to radiation, the radiations are there in the water, just causing hazards to the aquatic animals. Radiations are causing us skin cancer, different types of cancers, the eye problems, everything is happening because of this. We need this, but definitely we don't even need this. It's like that. Technology is having its own boon and having its own bane. These alpha, beta, and gamma radiations are present inside the it is present inside the radioactive element. So these radioactive elements are used for different purposes, which we'll study under next topic. No, Razeen. See, these are all see your superhero movies, no, all Avenger series में बहुत कुछ ऐसा भी है जो टेक्नोलॉजी से थोड़ा परे है. Maybe that might be the future. I'm not saying this is not going to happen. This might happen, but currently it's not happening. Nobody had a vision of having mobile phones. We had this normal telephone. पहले तो टेलीफोन इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ, वो भी एक नया चीज था. उसके बाद उस टेलीफोन को हम घर में लैंडलाइन के जैसे यूज करते थे, वो भी एक इन्वेंशन था. फिर वो टेलीफोन भी मूव होने लगा, वो इन्वेंशन था. Mobile phones with smart technology, with this touch screen, whatever you want, everything is an invention. Yes, scanning our body with radiations is definitely a difficult work. Abhi, talking about this table being asked in the exams, see, majority of the schools do have this table, but there are few schools who usually omit this table. Because about radioactivity, we don't study in 10th standard. We don't have anything related to radioactivity in next year. So many schools usually have the tendency to omit this table. So that will be guided by you to your school teacher only. If your school teacher tells you that this table will be there for the exam, you'll have to study. I explain because even if it's there, don't there, everybody should know, as we are studying in a whole batch of students, whole batch of class, no? So, understood about this, everyone? So, if your school doesn't have this, see, even if a school tells you, don't tell you, study, it is not that difficult. Study twice or thrice, you will get the hang of it and it will become simple. Now, we were talking about radioactivity and we understood that these radioactive elements gives out these 3 types of radiations. Now, this radioactivity can be of 2 types. That U stands for Dalton. That is the units on which we are going to measure the mass. Okay, Sakshi, got it? The U stands for Daltons, which is the units to measure the atomic mass. Natural radioactivity. Natural radioactivity is usually emitted out. See, radioactivity was there naturally, which scientists found out. But when they found out that radiations are giving out from an element, why don't we produce it artificially also? So natural radioactivity is generally with elements with high atomic number, that is 82 to 92, as they radiate spontaneously in nature. They are called as natural radioactive elements. Atomic numbers from 82 to 92. Atomic numbers with 82 to 92, which are found to radiate spontaneously in nature, they will be called as natural radioactive elements. Then, because natural radioactive elements were discovered, there were 2 persons who were main persons who were behind this. Okay. Artificial radioactive elements. Yes, if you want, not a problem. Artificial radioactive elements. The 2 couple, very important in the name of radiophysics. Very important. These names are Frederick Joliot Curie and Irene Joliot Curie. Yes. They were the 2 important persons, the couple who discovered or invented induced radioactivity, means artificial. The radioactive elements produced in the nuclear fission process brought about in the laboratory by bombardment of particles are called as artificial radioactive elements. Now, students, we all know that radioactivity is caused because of unstable nucleus, isn't it? हमने पढ़ा ना, न्यूक्लियस अनस्टेबल होता है, इसीलिए रेडिएशंस बाहर आता है. तो इंड्यूस्ड रेडियोएक्टिविटी कैसे हुआ? वी गॉट दीस एलिमेंट्स इन द लेबोरेटरी, वी बॉम्बार्डेड देम विद पार्टिकल्स. जैसे न्यूक्लियर फिशन का हमने आई थिंक लास्ट ईयर किया था इन द टॉपिक, आई डोंट रिमेंबर एग्जैक्टली द टॉपिक ऑफ न्यूक्लियर फिशन. आई थिंक वी स्टडीड अबाउट द प्रोसेस ऑफ यूरेनियम आइसोटोप. डू यू रिमेंबर यूरेनियम आइसोटोप, जिसमें मॉडरेटर था, कंट्रोलर था. आई एम नॉट एबल टू get the exact name of the topic. 8th standard के इसमें था, right? We used an uranium isotope. We bombarded means उसके ऊपर डाला. It's a stable isotope. देखो यूरेनियम एक stable atom है. उसके ऊपर मैं अगर और न्यूट्रॉन्स ऐड करूंगी तो उसका न्यूक्लियस अनस्टेबल हो जाएगा. So when its nucleus becomes unstable, it's try to emit out radiations. न्यूक्लियर फिशन का मतलब जो न्यूक्लियस स्प्लिट होने लगता है, सेपरेट होने लगता है. There are 2 terms, fusion and fission. Fusion मतलब जो ऐड होता है, fission मतलब जो सेपरेट होता है. So then radioactive elements are produced in nuclear fission process. That is a breaking process. और वो हमने लेबोरेटरी में कैसे किया? Bombardment means उसके ऊपर डाला more particles to make it unstable. That is called as artificial radioactive elements. They were awarded the Nobel Prize in 1935 for this invention. They had a great work in this field. So these are two terms you need to know again: natural radioactivity and artificial radioactivity. Natural is about the elements with atomic numbers 82 to 92, and artificial is the one which is created inside the laboratory. And next most important topic, that is uses of radioactive isotopes. We'll do it in the next class. You all have heard because of isotopes. आइसोटोप्स के बारे में सुना है तुमने? मैंने पढ़ा है. क्या होता है आइसोटोप्स, बताओ मुझे. Same atomic number but different atomic mass number. Very good. And the more surprising, it's not surprising actually, it has to be found common. Julian Curie, they all died because of excessive exposure to radiations. Has to, you know, they were doing research in this field only. So we were talking about use of radioactive isotopes. We'll do it in the next class. For now, try to revise about radioactivity and its definition. In the next class, we'll talk about the uses. All right, everyone.